In today's video, I want to welcome you to Opole. Opole is a lovely place, I have to say. It's my first time here, and it is the capital of the Opole voivodeship, which sits between Silesia and Lower Silesia. So it's often quite missed by tourists, I would say. It's a city that is famous for music, first off. There's a wonderful museum dedicated to Polish music here. But I would say also this place is known as the Polish Venice because it has like a lovely series of canals. Okay, the view behind me isn't exactly representative of the city, but sometimes it's just nice to do these recordings in a quiet place without distractions and where I can feel a little bit at ease. I've seen a few videos on this city, and after visiting here, I don't think they did it justice. So I'm hoping that this video will show you what there is to see in Opole and teach you about the history and give you a good reason to visit this area. And I have to say, after visiting this city, I'm very keen to visit the rest of this region someday. So please enjoy. Dzień dobry. Welcome to a Brit in Poland. This channel has a number of missions. The main one, to create a video for every place on this list. Though I could use your help. The help could be in a number of forms. You could like my video, you could subscribe to my channel, you could follow me on Facebook or Instagram, or you could donate to my Patronite account. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy the video. Now, when I was researching this place, I didn't really know what to expect. I saw a lot of sites. I saw a lot of semi-interesting things online. So it didn't really prepare me for the experience of actually being in this city. And after coming here, I was very glad that I did. So I hope after this video that you have a similar thing. So I took the train from Warsaw, and here's a rough idea of the kind of territory that I covered here. So here's the train station, which I think is meant to be Gothic architecture. I might be wrong. It was rather big, actually. I was surprised compared to a lot of the train stations you tend to see. So I was quite happy. Krakowska Street is, let's say, the main thoroughfare of the city, and it has quite a different look during the night. As you can see, it has these lovely things that are lit up, but give it a real nice atmosphere. And it's mainly shops and cafes, and you eventually get to a few restaurants. So you've got Mannequin and some other places which I'll go into. You have this great big memorial in like the first square you reach, which is dedicated to the Polish fighters in Silesia. And you'll see quite a lot in this video. I compare night and day. The Philharmonic, it actually dates back to 1972, and you will find world-class performances conducted here with artists from around the globe. You have this really cool set of statues at the front, and it's also a place during the summer where you have a nice kind of coloured fountain. Unfortunately, I was a bit late. One of the days I popped into this Papa Jack's restaurant. Pretty good food. Prices weren't crazy, and okay, maybe it's a cop-out going to like an American restaurant in a Polish city, but I couldn't help myself. So coming off behind the Philharmonic, you have this little park here, which takes you to the first main attraction, which is the Grosze Bridge. Called so because it was originally costing a grosze to cross it. It's one of the kind of the prettiest bridges in Poland. So it's a nice little, let's say, Instagram spot. And it dates back to 1858. So going into the center, you will see that, of course, like all of your classic Polish cities, you have the great town hall and the very picturesque square. And this place was bustling, absolutely full of life, lots of vendors, lots of bars and cafes here. So yeah, it's a kind of a real kind of landmark. I mean, Opole is not the biggest city in the world, but this is a good place to kind of navigate to and fro, because it is pretty much more or less in the center of what most tourists will explore. And the town hall itself dates back to 1864 and is a stunning piece of neo-Renaissance architecture. The Polish song, Walk of Fame, is something that's being added to all the time. So it's like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but for musicians, Polish musicians at that. And it's often obscured by the many pedestrians you see, but it's cool. And yeah. So next you have the Franciscan church, and this is dating back to the 14th century, and I regret not going inside, because apparently you will find the remains of some of the Piast rulers buried here. One of the first museums as such you will see from the town centre is the tenement house, and this place is worth a visit. It's basically showing what Polish apartments looked like between 1890 and 1965. There is timed entry, which you can get from this museum here, which is the Opole Silesian Museum. Now, this starts off with basically a load of ceramics and glass. You have a room full of dolls' houses, which demonstrate some of the various businesses. You have this kind of sucarium, so like a sweet factory, which I didn't see in operation, but I assume you can book. And you have a room full of kind of impressionist paintings, and this very interesting kind of big painting here that certainly had some character. In the basement, you have the archaeological exhibit, and it really showcases just how far back the settlement of the city goes. And on the top floor, you have, let's say, the proper talk through of the history, including this cool diorama. And you also have like this kind of ethnographic part, and there's like temporary exhibitions as well. So you have the church on the hill, and this actually dates back to the 10th century, though what you see here was rebuilt in sort of 1739. You will find a 17th century painting, as well as, of course, the beauty of Polish churches. So worth popping in, though do watch out for, I'd say, gypsies, or somebody tried to accost me outside and drag me off to buy them food, and were rather persistent about it. So the first castle we're going to visit is actually the second castle of Opole, but it's the one that's like in the main centre. So it was erected between 1382 and 1387 by order of Prince Vladislaus II, though it's a bit of a mysterious place because there's no record of it being built. Possibly it was built on top of a wooden castle that was here before. And now you only really get the basement, I would say, is kind of the authentic castle. The rest is more of, I'd say it's an attraction where you get to wear armor and swords and carry swords and things. Next to this is the University Hill, and it's very picturesque. A lot of statues, classic Roman style statues, I would say. indicating the different seasons. And yeah, you have a nice eagle there. And it's really cool. And this is like right by the Artists Square, which reminds me of Kielce a little bit. And yeah, it's just a nice square where you have a random statue. Now, this is some place that I didn't find in any of the materials, but it's a retro computer museum. And here, basically, you have a collection of old computers. You can play on them. It's completely free to go in, but do feel free to donate if you pop in to visit. The people there are very friendly, very English speaking. And I have to say, most of the people I encountered here in this city were very good with English. So it's more tourist friendly than some of the places. So these are the old city walls, which again, I think date back to about the 14th century. Of course, not all of them standing still, but this is a nice little structure here. And this area is kind of known as the Polish Venice. It's maybe slightly misleading. You don't see any gondola boats for sure, but it is a lovely little walk, especially in the evening. Because as you can see, everything's lit up. I saw a lot of kind of couples walking hand in hand along this stretch. So quite a romantic spot of the city. And yeah, it was just really nice to see. Of course, Opole is on the Odra River, so worth noting. The Piast Tower is the oldest castle and was actually one of my favorite parts of the trip. It dates back to the 14th century. And actually all that's remaining now is this one tower. There used to be a kind of a larger complex here, but it was basically, well, let's say demolished by the Germans. And the only reason the tower survived is the local Polish people basically tricked the Germans into thinking it was built in a kind of Germanic style. You will have to kind of book a tour. They seem to be roughly on the hour. You can do that in the ticket office, and there is a website you can go to as well. And it's a tour that's worth going on. I would definitely recommend. This is Susanna, the very lovely tour guide. They do not normally do tours in English, but she did a little special translation for me, which I was very grateful for. And you get wonderful views of the city from the top of this tower, so I definitely recommend it. It was one of my favourite places. The Millennium Amphitheatre and the Polish Song Museum is probably, let's say, the most unique part of this city. So the amphitheatre is home to many bands that will play throughout the year, and the Polish Song Festival, which has been going from the 60s. And the museum is actually a lot more modern. I think it's going back to about 2016. But again, it's one of those must-see places. Because effectively, the way it works is they give you a set of headphones when you go in. And then you have a whole series of exhibits. But the main part are these interactive screens. So you go there, you tune the headset to the particular screen you're on, pick the song, and then you get to watch the music video. And they have songs basically going from the 1920s up until the modern day, including your classic disco polo. So you could easily spend a good hour in here if you're a big fan of Polish music. You could spend even longer. Again, it is timed entry, so best to kind of book those tickets in advance. But what I did was got my ticket and then ran. So this is Karol Muszul, who was responsible for the Polish music festival. Opole Cathedral was sadly under reconstruction when I was popping by. But again, it's a very old kind of remnant of the city. And it's one of the kind of more dramatic things on that landscape. And you see these llamas everywhere. And I asked about this, and apparently it's tied to the film festival. So you have a lot of music and film festivals here, but how many llamas can you find? And there were some lovely murals, which I always appreciate in a city, because you can never get enough culture really in these places. Very impressive. And yeah, this one was a Grand Theft Auto sort of style, which I thought was pretty cool. And we're gonna wander a little bit away from the city for a time, because we're gonna go to let's say one of the more scenic areas of the city. And yeah, sorry, there's just showing some more murals along the river. But we're going to head down to Bolko Island. So you have a little bit of a walk to get there. It's, say, about 20 minutes or so. But once you do get there, I think you will find it very relaxing, providing you have good weather, of course. Bolko was one of the rulers of Opole back in the day, one of the first rulers, I believe. So this is hence why the island has been named after him. And it's definitely the greenest spot in the city. It's very nice to walk around and very relaxing. There is some bar there, which I didn't quite get to, but it's just very tranquil. You can have plenty of benches, plenty of green scenery. And Opole doesn't really have that many parks, you would say, so it's definitely your opportunity to enjoy the green space. So here is the zoo, and what do you expect? It's a zoo. It was your classic game half the time of spot the animal. So, for example, I went past the wolf enclosure and I didn't see any wolves, but I did hear wolves. But I saw lions, tigers, giraffes, various birds, primates, zebras, antelope, all kinds of different animal species. And the habitats actually look quite spacious. So I think the animals are well cared for, and they all looked in good health as well. I'm always a bit divided on zoos, but, I didn't see any animals looking miserable, as I often do in some of these places. And yeah, some more views of the island. And it's quite an extensive walk. This is kind of like a northern part, which is basically just a big kind of park, really. But again, was, nice to walk along the river. You get some sort of scenic views of the city, well, past the tree line, of course. So now we're going to go into Opole Nightlife. So there were these street performers in the main square, and I went to quite a few bars when I was here because, well, I have to try them out. And this Maro Rynek, or small square, is where you will find perhaps some of the nicer places. So I had some good cocktails here, I can certainly say. Wasn't too pricey. Around the corner, you've got the Kill Bill bar, which is more of a shot bar, but they also do cocktails as well. So I can safely say that I was a bit tipsy. Popostruvek is on the island, and it's one of the cheapest places I found. Incognito, again, had to pop in here for a cocktail because, well, it would be rude not to, and it's quite central. Reset, I popped in, again, had a nice cocktail. A couple of the local lads got me a shot, and that was really nice. They recommended going to this Red Bike bar, which I popped into, and again, friendly, nice cocktails. I'm not going to lie, I had a few cocktails on this tour. But you've got to make the most of a trip, haven't you? This was one of the last places I went to on my way out. They had some lovely craft beers in here, and you can get various cakes and things. So it was a nice little stop. And this place, Kuchnia, was recommended by the tourist office as having some of the nicest breakfasts. So I stopped in here to get a staple Polish Silesian breakfast. So yeah, this filled me up. I loved the random, like, big bread roll. But those are let's say, the main sites. So I've got a few bits of footage here which will, just showcase a little bit more of the city I saw. And I want to just go through some of the history because I haven't really covered that on this video yet. So actually, this city dates back to kind of the 8th century and was originally on the kind of the middle island where you have the pierced castle now. And it was by 992 that it became part of Poland when it was conquered by Duke Mieszko I. Given town rights in 1217 by Duke Casimir I. Went to Bohemia in 1327. Went to Austria in 1532. 1655, the King of Poland was based here, and he launched his kind of fight back against the Swedes from here. But in 1668, it went back to the Habsburgs. And 1740, it was conquered by King Frederick of Prussia. 1816, it got the first railway connection. 1849, the first newspaper, Gazeta Wiejska dla Górna Śląska. Manufacturing opened up in 1859, became part of the German Empire in 1871. And it was 1928 to 1931 that the Germans demolished the pierced castle, except for the tower that remains. In 1937, the persecution of Polish citizens began rather strongly, and the Gestapo launched some kind of spy and terrorize operations against the local Poles. And in 1939, there was a mass arrest of Polish citizens the day before World War II broke out. Polish organizations were closed down and assets of the bank were confiscated. And 13 forced labor subcamps were run from this city by the Germans. And after the war, basically the Germans were expelled from the city, and a lot of the Polish population that came in actually came from Lviv, which is now in Ukraine, because that used to be Polish, and of course after the war it was given over to Ukraine, so Poles were kind of displaced, so a lot of them moved here. But I have to say, I really enjoyed. I spent 2 nights here, and I could have spent a third and been quite happy. It's a very beautiful city, a lot of wonderful architecture. So I really hope you visit. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please like, please subscribe, and stay tuned, because there is a lot more of Poland for me to discover. So thank you very much for watching. Do zobaczenia.